Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all and peace out to the rest of you. You already know who it is and who it's not. It ain't your boy, but it is your man, the blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media, signing blacking and shining again. Asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. So here we go. What's sad about what I'm going to tell you is that a lot of you are probably going to hear the beginning of it and you're going to have a knee-jerk reaction and you're going to say, black mind, you're going too far. You can disagree. I just ask that you hear me out before you do. Because you know how we do. You know how us'ns like to do. Hear two words, up, no, you ain't, flying off the handle. Because we ninjas. And I'm going to ask you to stifle that instinct, turn that gene off if you think it's genetic. I don't. Fuck the shuck up and hear me out. Then make up your mind. So, one of the kryptonites to us is hearing somebody out before making a final conclusion. But one of the other kryptonites to us is nuance. Matter of fact, they're really just different levels of the same thing. But nuance really gets us. That's why it is that we argued about supporting Trump versus Biden. What do you mean either or? Neither one is politically black enough to justify our support. That's why we sat up here and argued about whether or not we're supposed to support Kevin Samuels. What was the debate about? Well, it comes down to this. We have to be able to support people specifically in certain things and not in others. Now, in order to better illustrate what I mean, one example is going to be, about almost a year ago, maybe more, he flipped the script and he started to tell the wicked witches of the West what they needed to hear. And what they needed to hear was exactly what they did not want to hear, which is very necessary. That's very important for us to understand. When you were telling the sister what she needs to hear, the wicked witch of the West, white or black, really, when you tell them what they need to hear, you usually can understand how bad they need to hear it based on how much they don't want to. Keep that in mind first. Next, everybody, if they're not careful, is going to do something very specific. And I myself might do this one day. When people don't want to accept a particular thing, what they will do is they will ask for a specific example. And they're going to put the conditions of the example out there for you. And they are basing the conditions on what cannot exist. And that's exactly what I would do if I'm going to say, give me an example of so-and-so as to why I should accept some particular conclusion you have. Give me an example of someone that's accepted it and is better off in life for it. I would say the exact same thing, probably. But I have to be convinced that it's wrong. I give two examples first, then the third example you will understand. Years ago, I was talking with an Eastern European naturalized American citizen that works for my company, and he bigwig, travels around, and he can influence things and stuff like that. He was the one that actually got me my transfer from this really small, backwards, dirtbag Bedouin town that I lived in at first. He was the one that was able to convince my project manager there, if you don't let Black Mind go to a better location soon, he's going to snap. You've already lost every other Western native English speaking male teacher you've had because this town effing sucks. And he's been patient. And you told him stop talking bad about the Bedouins, and he wasn't even doing that at work. He was doing that in his personal life. You got on him about that. Well, now he's about to pop. Let him go. And that's how I got the transfer to the town in which I now live, where I met my wife. But one day we had a debate, and this Eastern European gentleman, who's done a lot to help me, said, well, when it comes to the racial conflict, explain to me why the community is still in the position it's in right now today, and don't say slavery. I said, can I bring up Jim Crow? He said, no. And I told him, then you just said, don't answer your question. What you wanted was to be able to ask the question and me look at you with no answer. But no, the answer is exactly what you told me not to tell you it is. And that's exactly what black parents do because of the trauma of slavery. When they want to sit up and try to silence the kids when the kids are right and the parents are wrong, that's nigger trauma. And you just did the same thing. Matter of fact, maybe I need to do a DNA swab and find out just what percentage of black blood you got in you, sir. And he actually kind of cracked up. See, he forgot I was a history teacher before I started teaching English. Now, that's not all. This happened when I was living in that town. Shortly after I transferred over here, I made my last trip to Morocco to see my wife at the time. In one of the cab rides, because I don't speak Moroccan, and that's a different language, so to speak. I mean, it's related to Arabic, but it's not like any other Arabic countries, Arabic. So I couldn't speak the way they did. And so they would ask me, of course, where you're from. And I knew if I say I'm from the States, they're going, but man, these prices going up 5 times. Even if she's with me, they'll just argue with her. Like, what are you doing? You know he has it. So I would tell them I'm from West Africa. She said to me after the last cab ride we took, Black, don't tell them you're from Africa. And I said to her, why not? We're on African soil. What's the problem? She said, well, they don't really respect Africans like that. And I looked at her and I said, well, I'd heard about this, but now you're confirming it for me. If they don't respect Africans like this, then they need to get the F off of my continent. Now, mind you, I was talking like this and Black Panther had not come out yet. I didn't even know it was a movie that was going to be made. I said, my continent. They need to fit the guck off my continent, if that's how they feel. We were here first. And she said, but look, see, there's actually a valid reason for this idea. So, of course, I was looking at her like she had 2 heads because, see, she's a Salafia Muslima. Face veil, gloves out in public, everything. I don't mean with me. Of course, we saw each other naked, but I mean out in the public. That's what and I was like, wait a minute. If they're the strictest of Muslims, then how fucking dare they sit up here and say stuff like this? But then again, Salafiyya largely, the modern day understanding of it largely comes out of Saudi Arabia. It's a valid principle, don't get me wrong. But there's a version of it that largely comes out of Saudi Arabia. And I do not support it. Because it does enhance Bedouin culture under the guise of religion. And Bedouiyya, I'm the first one to tell you, Bedouiyya is crap. Sometimes it's even blasphemy. Sometimes. So I was really shocked, but I let her talk. And when she was done talking, I let her have it. See, one of the things she said to me was, Subhanallah, the white folks went to the moon. That's what she said, America, actually. SubhanAllah, America went to the moon and Europe is now going. What has Africa done? And when she was done, I started to answer and she said, don't mention history. What has Africa done? And I told her, history is the past. What do you mean don't mention history? You don't want me to answer the question. You ask it, but you don't want me to answer it. That's what that is. And I hear this a lot, and that's exactly what Kevin Samuels did when they asked him about MGTOW. Show me one man that fits this criteria and validate it, and don't adopt somebody like Leo DiCaprio. Oh, God. He doesn't want the answer. The answer is because MGTOW, or to a certain extent, it's not black enough, but it's true. I'll put it like that. Because it is based on red pill truths, You can't have a certain stature in the society in terms of fame and fortune at the same time after you have validated something like this. That's not how it works. Henry Cavill, who played Superman, got dragged through the mud for less than that. Kevin knew that wasn't going to happen. He knew that wasn't going to happen. He knows. It's like sitting up and saying, well, if you're going to talk about all this black power stuff, show me somebody that's told the white man about himself to his face with no alias and not covering his face up, and he's still doing well in life. That can't happen. Because the monster's not going to be honest and play fair. Assata Shakur is never going to be allowed to go back into the United States other than in handcuffs. She's never allowed to go back for that. Go back and then live free. Not the way the U.S. is right now, because the monster does not play fair. Bullies don't do that. Oppressors in general don't do that. And the Western European white man is an oppressor globally. Even their own men are getting sick and tired of them being like this, and they're admitting it. The women are admitting it too, but it's as Dave Chappelle said. It's not because they don't like what's going on. It's because they just don't like their cut. They got no problem with the heist. And in the context of the West, the wicked witch of the West is an oppressor even over her own nephew, grandson, younger brother, buddy, or even son at times by virtue of them lying. They're not going to admit this stuff. And they're not going to let some man expose these truths and get away with it. And that's pretty much what Kevin was saying. Show me an example of someone who told the truth to the oppressor in the situation and got away with it. You don't get away with stuff like that. He's pretty much saying, show me somebody that can tell them about themselves and they can't do nothing to them. Well, they wouldn't allow something like that in the first place, sir. And this is why I'm saying to you who are listening, that you can support Mr. Samuels when he's sitting up here telling the wicked witch of the West about herself and her ways. They need to hear that, and he's doing a good job. He's got the platform to do it. I admit it. The minute he turns around and starts saying to the men, well, see, you need to, and he does it in a corrective or chastising tone, even if he means well, you turn it off. Nope, done listening. If you call in and he starts in on you with that, hang up. If he tells you just new information, like they lied about this, that, and the other, but he's not blaming you, yeah, go ahead and listen. But if he can't do it in a non-blaming tone, hang up. And this is why I would say that men would be better off never going to him for image consulting as it comes to women. Ever. You'd be better off never going to him when it comes to that. Don't let him see you. Don't let him see what you're wearing. He'll have you out there buying other people. You pay him to consult. He'll have you out there buying all these different clothes to try to communicate to the women that you're a different type of man, when in fact, the women don't feel the need to communicate to you that they're a different type of woman. They just want to look good enough for you to lust after them. That's it. And to manipulate you. That's what's going to happen. So you're going to pay all around, but then you're stupid for getting a passport and running. Now understand this, gentlemen. He's not going to sit up and tell you it's a good idea to get a passport. He's going to say the same thing about, well, I mean, you can do that, but he's also going to say their nature is the same. He's not lying about their nature being the same. He's going to overlook the fact that the nurture is different in certain areas. And that the nurture and the nature are completely bad over here, over there. And I say over here because I know it's bad. Certain things here are not as bad as they are over there, but even where I live, there's certain things that are bad. Now, where I am, it's a bit more subdued in terms of my locale, but I'm gonna tell y'all straight. I know in the Emirates, you have a problem with sugar mamas and I mean sugar babies and sugar daddies in the Emirates, because see, most people there are actually bilingual and they go on these English language websites and write this stuff. I forgot the name of the site, but one of my subscribers, who I actually know in person, but I didn't tell him in person anyway. One of my subscribers told me about this, and I know he's lived in the same country as me. He told me about it just days ago. That's part of why I even said that when we go to these other nations, the thing we got to do is we got to let these men of these nations know what the feminism is. Because it's already too far gone in some areas, but that's a different topic for a different recording. In the meantime, I do want to get to the point here, get back to the point. Mr. Samuels is going to tell you that running away is not the answer. Well, yeah, the hell it is. Staying and fighting ain't the answer. You can't. I mean, there's certain things you could weaponize, but fighting and actually knocking a dent in the problem is it's not even an option. That's exactly why it was not fair for him to sit up and say, show me, and start listing all these conditions that can't. I mean, what I'm getting at is somebody's going to sit up and try to win an argument by telling you to show them someone with two mutually exclusive conditions that are not allowed to exist at the same time, and they still have them. It's like saying, show me somebody that robbed the bank and got away with it. He got away with it. How the hell would I know that he did it? If I know he did it, somebody else would know he did it and he wouldn't get away with it. Fit the guck out my face. Show me somebody that got away with murder. How the huck would I know that? If he got away with murder, chances are I'm not going to know he murdered someone. That's the issue here. Show me somebody that, show me someone that fell from a 12-story building and hit the ground flat. Nothing broke their fall and they survived. Oh, man. That's what these folks do. And it doesn't matter who does it. When they do that, that's when it's time to start either checking them or just turning everything off. But don't sit there and engage, and don't debate about how to deal with something like that. That was disingenuous. That wasn't fair to say. When you were telling the truth about someone that has a vested interest in lies, they're going to do anything to silence your truth. And it's perfectly okay to point that out. This is why our support of him, like it is of anybody else, must be very specific and conditional. That even applies to any of you supporting me. It is not your job to support me unconditionally. It is my job to be worthy of it. To meet the conditions making me worthy of the support. And it's the same thing with anyone else you can choose to support or detract from, either one. It's their job to meet the conditions to be worthy of it. And this is why I say when I make a mistake, it has to be an honest mistake. I got to hold myself to that. Now, those are going to happen. I can't do anything about them in most cases, but I got to be fair about that. When BGS pointed out the conclusions to which I jumped based on that chart, that was my honest mistake, but it was an honest one. And that's why he could be nice enough to point it out like an honest mistake. But that's not a time to just get behind me and support. You may actually support a particular premise and say, well, I can support the conclusion, but not because of this evidence over here. You could do that. That's a nuance. This is what I'm getting at. And we got to apply this to Mr. Samuels, to any political figures too. Anyone with a big enough platform for us to know about them, enough of us to know about them to have these debates in the first place. We all got to do it. And I would like to see us as a people get better about that. That being said, thank you for listening. Black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum, black heterosexual, non-select male power, just because they don't like it. and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.